Just happened to look out, and I seen the black figure standing in the woods. It creeped me out. I thought maybe it was some person, but the more I looked at it, the more I realized that it was a lot bigger than a normal person would be.
They say the forest holds secrets, ancient, primal secrets that whisper through pine needles and dance in the morning mist. But what happens when one of those secrets looks back? When the watcher becomes the watched? This story doesn't start with campfire tales or blurry legends. No grainy photographs or secondhand accounts from wide-eyed hikers. It begins with something much colder and much more real. A FLIR thermal camera mounted on a U.S. Army helicopter during a routine training exercise. High above a stretch of remote forest in the Olympic Peninsula, miles from any main road, far from the noise of civilization. Equipment designed for tactical reconnaissance, for finding what doesn't want to be found. And then it appears, unmistakable against the cool blue backdrop of the forest floor. A shape, moving fast, faster than any human should through dense underbrush. Broad-shouldered and powerfully built. Towering, reaching perhaps 8 feet in height when fully upright. Humanoid in basic form, but off. The proportions are wrong in ways that send shivers down the spine of even hardened military personnel. You can see it darting beneath the canopy with uncanny grace. Long arms, unnaturally long, swinging with pendulum precision, and a stride too wide, too fluid for any ordinary human. Too efficient, too adapted. The kind of movement you'd expect from something evolved for the wild, not for sidewalks or streets. Not for our world, but for something older, something we've forgotten. The thermal signature burns bright, over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, against the cooler forest. At one point, it turns, just briefly. A deliberate pause in its fluid motion, a glance up, toward the roar of the helicopter blades cutting through mountain air, like it knows it's being watched, like it's calculating, assessing the threat. Then it's gone again. Not running in panic as deer might scatter, but purposefully slipping through trees with the practiced ease of something that has played this game for generations. Like it was never there. Like a ghost made of heat and muscle. 3 soldiers witnessed it. Only 2 would speak of it afterward. The thermal footage, precisely 17 seconds of unexplainable imagery, was reportedly sent to a classified biological research division. No sound, no words, just heat trails and questions, lots of them. Questions that burn hotter than the creature's blazing orange silhouette on a monitor designed to find hidden enemies. Questions that linger in the minds of those who've seen the footage and know the forest isn't just watching us back, it's moving.
Seeing this instantly, I tell myself, we're looking at a Bigfoot.
They frequented the house almost every night since then, in some way or another. They're very close to me at all times now. They show up right after the sun goes down, and they leave right as the sun's coming up or shortly after.
The shape in the trees. Still, images don't lie, but they don't always tell the truth either. In another piece of footage, captured by hikers in what can only be described as a textbook Bigfoot zone, the dense, mist-shrouded forests of the Olympic Peninsula in Washington state, a hulking, shadow-drenched form hunches through dense foliage. The video was taken during the golden hour, that fleeting time just before sunset, when the forest floor darkens while treetops still glow with amber light. You might miss it at first, but stare long enough and the figure separates itself from the branches. It's massive, standing well over 7 feet tall with shoulders nearly twice the width of an average man, covered in something that looks like fur, but with a strange smoothness, almost too perfect. The coloration shifts between deep umber and black as it moves between patches of light and shadow. And that's the problem. Real fur clumps. It mats. It glistens in places and dulls in others. This doesn't. The witness, a 38-year-old former forest ranger named Martin Keller, claims he felt watched for nearly 2 miles before capturing the footage. The hair on the back of his neck stood up, he reported later. Birds went silent. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Could it be a suit? Maybe. But then again, how do you explain the posture? That forward lean at precisely 35 degrees, a stance impossible to maintain in normal human anatomy without toppling forward. the long, heavy swing of the arms that reach below the knees. It mimics the biomechanics seen in some of the most controversial Bigfoot clips in history, including the famous Patterson-Gimlin film from 1967. Local wildlife experts examined the surrounding area 3 days later and found a series of tracks, 17 inches long with a stride length of over 4 feet, that disappeared into a rocky ravine where no impressions were possible. Still, it's not definitive. The proportions are human-like, though elongated in ways that would require elaborate stilts. The fur looks too clean for a creature supposedly living wild in the Pacific Northwest. And without movement to study beyond those few precious seconds, we're left wondering, illusion or something else?
Always watching, always. I'm going to turn the camera, and as soon as I look at them, they're going to go, but just keep an eye out. Watch. There they go.
The Watchers in the Woods. Now this next one? It's not footage, it's testimony. But not just any testimony. Marcus Delaney, a 72-year-old retired logger who's lived alone on the same 100-acre property in the Cascade foothills for over 4 decades, doesn't sound like he's guessing. He sounds like he knows. His weathered hands, calloused from years of working the land, trace invisible boundaries on the topographical map spread across his kitchen table. Points to ridgelines and watershed divides that most visitors would never notice. He claims they're always nearby, watching, observing. A family group of at least 5 individuals who've inhabited these woods for generations before his arrival, never crossing a certain line, unless he does first. He's mapped out their territory like a truce line in a forgotten war. 3 distinctive knocks on trees, never 2, never 4, signal when he's ventured too far. Delaney describes nighttime vocalizations that begin as low, rumbling growls before ascending to howls that make your bone marrow freeze. He's recorded dozens of these sounds over the years, and acoustic analysis has proven they don't match known wildlife in the region. And when he gestures into the trees, something shifts. You catch it, barely. A flicker of movement, like something just slipped behind the veil of branches. The forest canopy sways slightly, though there's no wind. A shadow detaches from a trunk and dissolves into the understory. Could it be nothing? Sure, but something about his calm, that eerie calm that comes from decades of coexistence, it makes you pause. He talks about gifting rocks, carefully stacked cairns of stones that appear overnight on his property, mimicking structures he's built himself. About melted snow revealing hidden paths that circle his cabin during winter months, footprints over 3 times the size of his own. About finding freshly killed deer placed near his woodshed during particularly harsh winters when game was scarce. He's either deep in delusion or living a reality we can't yet comprehend.
So I'm not going to go pursue them because their structures are right over there. And as long as they stay on that side of the structures, they're not bothering me. And as long as I stay on this side, I'm not bothering them. We'll get with the gifting rock here pretty soon. Snow started to melt now, so I can get back there. But anyway, yeah, pretty cool.
Let us know what you think.
When asked why he's never captured definitive evidence, Delaney simply smiles and says, "They've earned their privacy, and I've earned their trust." Local anthropologists from Eastern Washington University have studied his claims for over 15 years, documenting over 200 separate incidents that defy conventional explanation. What makes Delaney's account particularly compelling is his lack of interest in fame or financial gain. He's refused multiple documentary offers and book deals.
A man glanced out of his window and saw something unusual.
I just happened to look out, and I seen the black figure standing in the woods. It creeped me out. I thought maybe it was some person, but the more I looked at it, the more I realized that it was a lot bigger than a normal person would be. And I could see that it had like beady eyes. There were no white parts to the eye. It was just solid black. And it wasn't blinking or anything. It was just staring me down.
Seeing this instantly, I tell myself, we're looking at a Bigfoot.
The midnight visitor. Not all encounters happen deep in the woods. Some come right up to your window. One man swears it started one night when he looked outside and saw a black figure standing motionless among the trees. No movement, no blinking. Just two solid black eyes locked on his own. It wasn't a person. It wasn't anything he could explain. It was big, silent, and it knew exactly where he was. Ever since, he says they come back, night after night, just after sunset, gone by morning, as if bound to some unseen schedule, or drawn by something specific. Him? He's tried to get closer, tried to catch a clearer shot, but every time he makes a move, the figure vanishes into the dark, like it was never there. But what if it was? The image that divides. Another photo surfaces. Different time, different place, but the same question. Is it real? This particular image emerged from the remote Gifford-Pinchot National Forest in southwestern Washington state, captured by wildlife photographer Elaine Myers during what was supposed to be a routine assignment, documenting eagle nesting patterns in late October. The forest floor was carpeted with fallen leaves in various stages of decay, vibrant reds and golds now fading to russet brown, creating a mosaic of autumn against the evergreen backdrop. The figure sits, or crouches, partially obscured by trees, a bulky mass that blends almost too perfectly with its environment, as if evolution had crafted this creature specifically for this ecosystem over thousands of years. The estimated height, even in its hunched position, would put the subject at approximately 7 to 8 feet tall if standing. The head, slightly pointed, cone-shaped. A classic Bigfoot trait described in hundreds of eyewitness accounts dating back to indigenous legends. And yet, there's something about the proportions that both confirms and contradicts known primate anatomy. The shoulders span nearly twice what a human's would, with muscle mass distribution suggesting immense upper body strength. Arms that seem too long, hands that seem too large. The dark reddish-brown fur appears matted in some areas, particularly around what would be the shoulders and back. There's no motion to study, no face to analyze, just a three-quarter rear view that reveals the slope of what might be a powerful neck merging into broad shoulders. Just a still shot. And shadows that play across the subject in ways that both define and obscure its outline. Myers herself remains conflicted about what she captured. "I didn't see it when I was taking photographs," she admitted during a podcast interview 6 weeks after the image went viral. "I was focusing on a nest in the upper canopy when I heard something massive moving through the underbrush about 50 yards away. I swung my camera down and took 3 rapid shots before whatever it was disappeared. Only one frame showed anything unusual." Digital analysis performed by 3 separate labs produced contradictory results. One declared the image showed evidence of digital manipulation. Another found no such evidence, but suggested the subject was most likely a bear with mange or other condition affecting its appearance. The third, associated with the Pacific Northwest Primate Research Center, declared the proportions inconsistent with any known regional wildlife. Local Cowlitz tribal elders were shown the photograph without context. 2 immediately identified the figure as Stetachi, their traditional name for the forest giants they've acknowledged in their oral histories for centuries. When told the photo was controversial, Elder Joseph Kinswa simply shrugged and said, "Of course. They show themselves only when they choose." The land where the photo was taken sits at the intersection of 3 hiking trails and an old logging road, hardly the isolated habitat one would expect for an undiscovered primate. Yet sightings in the area date back to the 1930s, with particular clusters reported during the massive timber harvests of the 1970s. The line between myth and manipulation. One of the biggest challenges in proving or disproving Bigfoot, the lack of motion. When an image is frozen, all nuance disappears. Movement is everything. Gait, posture, reflexes, those subtle cues help us separate a living creature from a staged illusion. But in many cases, like this one, all we have is a still. And that opens the door to doubt. Could it be a guy in a gorilla suit? Someone with time, props, and a flair for hoaxing? Sure. But this one's strange. There's no visible zipper, no awkward folds, nothing that screams costume. Yet, The lighting, the blur, the lack of context, it all clouds the scene. It could be real. It could be a setup. The truth remains hidden between shadows and speculation.
I see it. Yeah, it's on my side of the bank now. I'll see it. I'm gonna zoom in as close as I can. There it is. It's like it's still in the water up to its waist. It knows I'm up here. I think it wants to come up here, but it's not going to while I'm here.
A visitor from the waterline. Then we shift to something wetter. A man fishing by a quiet riverbank along the Snoqualmie River notices a figure, not far, half submerged in the water, tall, still, watching. The early morning fog still clings to the surface, wrapping around this mysterious observer. He zooms in. The shape becomes clearer, but only slightly. It doesn't move like a deer, doesn't resemble a bear. It's upright, patient. Dark water runs off broad shoulders. The figure stands chest deep in water that would reach most men's necks. He talks to it, or maybe to himself, unsure of what he's even seeing. His voice echoes across the water, breaking the strange silence that had fallen. No birds, no insects, just the gentle lap of water against the shore. But one thing's certain, it sees him. The fisherman later described a feeling of being thoroughly examined by whatever stood in that river, and it's not coming any closer. After 3 minutes of this silent standoff, the figure simply sinks below the surface. No splash, no ripples beyond what the current makes. Just there one moment, gone the next. The sounds from the trees. Deep in Michigan's Huron National Forest, a hunter and his 2 dogs are scouting. It's remote, quiet, miles from the nearest road or trail marker. But then, a sound. Not just any sound. Something guttural, long, almost like a language, but wild and primitive. A series of whoops followed by a low, rumbling call that seems to vibrate through the trees themselves. It rises and falls in pitch, almost musical, but distinctly non-human. He records it on his phone. You can hear the dogs go still. Their ears prick forward, bodies tense. Even the wind seems to hush. 28 seconds of audio that audio specialists at Michigan State would later classify as biological in origin, but unidentifiable.
Sounds like squash, don't it? You guys think that is? Should I call back?
Later, when he finds a hidden cabin tucked deep in the woods, long abandoned and half collapsed, the sound escalates. Louder, closer, less like an echo, more like a warning. 3 distinct sources calling from different directions, creating a triangular perimeter around his position. He never saw what made it, but he didn't need to. The hunter packed up and left before nightfall, breaking his planned 3-day excursion. Sometimes hearing is enough. The sounds followed him for almost a mile before gradually fading into the forest behind him. A mark that shouldn't exist. Thousands of miles away, in Queensland, Australia, another discovery. But this one isn't in the forest. It's on a car parked overnight near the edge of Lamington National Park. A massive, oily handprint smeared across the back window, far too large to be human. And it wasn't just the size, it was the shape. The thumb sat lower than it should, mimicking the structure of an ape's hand, not a human's. The fingers appeared unusually thick, with the pinky nearly as robust as the index finger. One photo showed a human hand below for comparison. The size difference? Startling. The mystery print measured 14.5 inches from wrist to fingertip. The proportions suggested a creature standing at least 8 feet tall. Some say it resembles the legendary Yowie, Australia's version of Bigfoot. Local Aboriginal elders were consulted and noted similarities to descriptions in their Dreamtime stories of the hairy man who guards certain territories. Others say it's just oil or some elaborate prank. But the eerie precision of that print? Hard to ignore. What makes this case particularly interesting is that the car's alarm had been triggered during the night, but when the owner checked, nothing seemed disturbed. Only in the morning light did the handprint become visible. The creature in the branches. Doug Teague from North Carolina never expected his afternoon stroll through the dense Pisgah National Forest to turn into a cryptid chase. But that's exactly what happened on that overcast October day. It started with knocking sounds, 3 distinct thumps that echoed through the trees. Then, tracks in the soft mud, 18 inches long with a stride length impossible for a human. Then, movement. A flash of dark brown against the autumn foliage. He followed the clues, his heart racing with each step, and they led him to something that didn't want to be found. Every step he took, it moved, but not away. Closer. The branches above him swayed unnaturally despite the still air. Doug's dog, Daisy, normally fearless around wildlife, barked nervously. Her hackles raised, eyes fixed on something Doug couldn't quite see. Then rocks started flying. Not falling, flying. Small at first, then stones the size of baseballs. Someone, or something, was throwing them with remarkable accuracy. That's not behavior you see from bears or deer. That's deliberate, that's intelligence, that's communication. Later, an anthropologist from Appalachian State University reviewed the scene and estimated the creature's height, roughly 15 feet, based on broken branches and disturbed vegetation patterns. That's no prankster in a mask. That's something else entirely. A glimpse from the road. Driving down a lonely highway through Washington's Cascade Mountains, a man spots something strange on a hill about 200 yards from the road. Upright, motionless, but not human. Its silhouette stark against the evening sky. He slows his truck, grabs his phone, and snaps a photo through the passenger window, unsure of what he saw through the gathering twilight. Online, the debates light up when he posts the image. Was it Bigfoot? A person in heavy gear? A tree stump weathered into a humanoid shape? The angle made it impossible to say for sure, but its proportions, its posture, just didn't align with anything ordinary. The shoulder width alone appeared nearly twice that of an average man. One witness who drove the same stretch daily swore nothing had stood on that hillside the previous morning. One thing's for sure, whatever it was, it didn't want to be seen, and yet, it was. Fishing with a side of fear. Another clip, another body of water. This time a secluded lake in northern Minnesota. Another figure emerging from the tree line. This time, it strolls out from the pines like it owns the place. Dark, matted hair covering its massive frame. Long arms swinging as it moves with no concern for being spotted. Steam rises from its body in the cool morning air. It doesn't hide. It doesn't run. It simply walks, calmly, like it's done this 1,000 times before. It pauses briefly at the water's edge, as if considering the shoreline, before continuing parallel to the lake. Some viewers swear they see shoes or boots when the footage is enhanced. Others insist it's barefoot, pointing to the unusual gait and foot placement. But high tops or not, one thing is clear. The creature is there, just 70 yards from the fisherman who captured the 40-second clip. Unbothered, unbending, unexplained. The video ends with the creature disappearing back into the forest, never once acknowledging the camera's presence. Up close and uncomfortable. And then, the most controversial clip of them all, filmed in the remote backwoods of Northern California's Six Rivers National Forest. A towering creature, dark, massive, at least 8 feet tall, snapping branches with brute force. The distinctive cracking sound echoes through the trees. It's aggressive. It's not lurking or running. It's warning. Its chest expands with each deep, rumbling vocalization that seems to vibrate the camera itself. But wait, why isn't it fleeing? The person filming stands just 30 yards away, hardly concealed. Bigfoot lore insists they're shy, cautious, elusive. This one? Brazen, bold, almost confrontational. It pounds its chest once before slapping the trunk of a nearby pine, leaving visible claw marks in the bark. Could it be an elder, a deaf or injured one, or just fake? The videographer claims he encountered the creature 3 times over a 2-week period in the same area. The internet argues back and forth. Is it CGI, a suit, an ambitious prank? Experts point to the realistic muscle movement under the hair, the natural articulation of limbs. Skeptics note the convenient framing, the brief duration of the clip. Or are we looking at the real thing, finally caught on tape? A genuine apex predator of the forest, tired of hiding from the encroaching world of humans. So, what do you believe? Maybe Bigfoot is real. Maybe it's a myth made tangible by blurry footage and the power of suggestion. But across forests, rivers, highways, and mountains, these stories keep piling up. Too many witnesses, too many prints, too many coincidences. At some point, you have to ask, what if we're not crazy for believing? What if the legend was never a legend to begin with?